We stayed both on-site at Hong Kong Disneyland and in the city at the Grand Hyatt, and the experiences could not have been more different. If you're planning a trip to Hong Kong Disneyland with kids, this on-site versus city hotel debate is something to think about before you book. Here's some quick context. We're a family of 5 with 3 young kids, and we stayed 2 nights in the city of Hong Kong at a luxury hotel, and then switched to Disney's Explorers Lodge for another 3 nights when visiting Hong Kong Disneyland. And all this while the park was absolutely packed. We'll help you decide whether to stay on-site or in the city while visiting Hong Kong Disneyland. The convenience factor is really the biggest differentiator. We stayed on-site at Disney's Explorers Lodge when the park was packed, and this really made a difference for us. And here's why. The pros of staying on-site is that you get to take advantage of a dedicated entrance to the park, and this really made a huge difference for us. If you've seen the previous videos, I've addressed this more in depth, but when you check it at the hotel, they give you a sleeve with your key cards, and on the sleeve they actually write down the dates that you're allowed to use this dedicated entrance for. And so all you have to do is take that sleeve of the key cards to the dedicated entrance, and then they just let you line up there. And let me tell you, that made a huge difference for us in terms of waiting time to enter the park. And you know, with 3 little kids, that really matters, especially when the kids are super excited to enter the park. Like, having access to that dedicated entrance really helped us and really cut down on the waiting time. Another advantage of staying on site is that there's a much shorter commute to the park, because Hong Kong Disneyland is pretty isolated from the rest of the city of Hong Kong. So when you stay on site, there is a complimentary shuttle bus that takes you directly to the park. And that made it really quick for us to get there. Although you have to keep in mind, especially when it's very busy, that there's also a wait time for the shuttle bus. The shuttle bus ride itself was very quick, maybe 5 to 10 minute ride. It was very, very fast. And this way you avoid a packed train, especially if you go to the park during peak hours. And then another pro is that you can take advantage of midday breaks on site. So you can take your kids back to the hotel so they can wind down for a little bit, or maybe they can take a nap. Maybe they can take a plunge in the pool. Especially for kiddos that get easily overstimulated by huge crowds, this could be very helpful. And then my personal absolute favorite perk of staying on site is that there are character meets at the hotel. If your kiddos really live for these character meets, like our kids, honestly, the rides, they're excited for some of the rides, they're not really that big on them. So for them, what really matters is the atmosphere at the park and really meeting and greeting characters. That's really what they care about the most. When we were at the hotel and on my way out, I happened to see Mickey. That was just really exciting for our kids. So I just texted my husband, and they ran over and they got to see Mickey. Barely had to wait at all, versus at the park, the wait times are pretty long for a lot of these characters. I definitely think this is a big perk when staying on site. And then the biggest con when staying on site really is the fact that it's very isolated from the rest of the city of Hong Kong, and that there's just really very few options when it comes to food. Yes, there are the restaurants that are at the hotels, but honestly, they are way overpriced and they're really not that delicious. So I think like maybe for 1 or 2 meals, sure, you know, that kind of still works out. But when you stay there for longer, it adds up really, really quickly. So if you want to avoid those huge prices when it comes to food, then I think staying off-site is definitely a better option. Of course, you know, knowing this, you could always prepare and, you know, try to bring some groceries. And, you know, honestly, we had read about this and we tried to prepare. But then the day that we were moving to Disney's Explorers Lodge, we weren't able to find like a full-fledged supermarket. So we had to do with kind of like more like a convenience store style supermarket. So it was really hard for us to kind of like find everything that we wanted to find for the kids to eat. So that's why we ended up having to eat at the hotel. And then later on, I did go to a supermarket, but it was quite time consuming going there and coming back just to get some groceries. If you know this in advance and prepare really well, I think then there's absolutely no problem. But in our case, it was a little bit of a struggle. And then when it comes to staying in the city, of course, the first biggest pro would be that you have easier access to really good food. And then in our case where we were just staying walking distance to a train station. So it'd be easy to kind of go to the train station and then take the train all the way to Disneyland. Even though you would have to transfer a couple of times. Or if you don't want to take the train, you could always take a taxi that's just right outside the hotel, very easy and quick access. And then they can also take you directly to the park. And then, you know, a couple other pros is that you could really enjoy beautiful views. Like where we were staying, we had beautiful harbor views. And you could just really enjoy the luxury of staying at a hotel like that. And then when it comes to the cons of staying in the city of Hong Kong when visiting Hong Kong Disneyland, that would be mainly, the fact that you would have to take the train, the commute itself, so you're losing some time there. And the trains get very, very packed during peak hours, so that's something to definitely keep in mind. And then you're also less in that Disney bubble, if you know what I mean. If that really matters to you, like you really want to be immersed in that Disney atmosphere, then of course I would highly recommend staying on site. I imagine there's always people who want to kind of be outside of that bubble once in a while as well. So I can understand that that would be actually better than to not stay on site. We really like being immersed in that Disney bubble for a little bit, so that's why we chose to stay on site. But I can totally see why for some people that just doesn't work. And when it comes specifically to traveling with kids and visiting Hong Kong Disneyland, I think staying on site really wins if you care about rope drop. In our personal case, we don't really care about rope drop. We're more of the laid back kind of travelers. Even when we visit a city, we like to just take our time and we don't really care about hitting all the sites in the place. But if rope drop is very important to you and your family, then definitely stay on site. Another pro would be that you could easily take breaks during the day. You can take your kids back to the hotel room. They can take a nap. And then lastly, if you stay until after the fireworks, just having a very short commute going back to the hotel, this might definitely be a pro. When it comes to pros to staying in the city, then I would say it's definitely up to your personal opinion. But staying in the city versus on-site really wins if you want to have this more calm evenings, if you need that time away from Disneyland, and if you just need a break from the Disney chaos and need some adult downtime. Now, I got to be honest, when the park was really packed like in our case, I think staying on site was really, really helpful. Now, when it comes to value and money, a lot of people think at first like, staying on site at a Disney hotel must be really, really pricey. However, I think in this specific case of Hong Kong Disneyland, I think staying on site is not necessarily more expensive than staying in the city because first of all, the rooms are huge. A lot of these rooms just have 2 queen beds. They easily let a family of 5 stay in one room, no issues there. And they're just very, very spacious compared to hotel rooms in the city of Hong Kong. So I think the choice of staying on-site versus in the city doesn't really come down to value and money. It really comes down to other factors as I've been discussing in this video. On-site value really depends on how much time you spend at the park and also how much you take advantage of the activities that they have at the hotels. Like I've shown in the previous video, they have a lot of activities also going on at the hotel. Some of those are for a fee, others are complimentary, but those are also really fun to take advantage of with your kids. Now, if you would rather stay at a hotel in the city, for that, I think the value really depends on whether or not you actually spend some time at the hotel. It also depends on how much you can actually enjoy the luxury experience. To spend time, for example, at the club lounge, having complimentary breakfast, really take advantage of those perks. It also depends on how you pay for the hotel, of course. If you have points that you can use for a hotel, so you don't really have to pay out of pocket, then staying at the city could definitely be a big advantage for you. If you're going to be at the park from rope drop all the way until after the fireworks, then I think staying at a hotel in the city doesn't really make sense. Then of course, I highly recommend that you stay on site. Let's talk about best strategy. I think this is very subjective, of course. You know yourself best and you know what kind of traveler you are and what things that you really value in a trip. Now, for us personally, we really enjoyed splitting our stay. When we first arrived, we really enjoyed staying at a luxury hotel in the city, really soaking up those Hong Kong vibes and really relaxing after our flight there and just being able to enjoy all those luxury perks at a hotel before heading into the Disney chaos. And then after our stay at the Grand Hyatt, we moved to Disney's Explorers Lodge, and that was also just a very different experience. And we really enjoyed staying at the hotel because we really tried to take advantage of all the perks that they were offering there. I also like that we stayed there towards the end of our trip because our transfer to the airport was just very seamless. The hotel concierge was so helpful. They just took care of everything, made sure that our taxi was there at a very early hour in the morning, and we didn't have to worry about anything. And I just really appreciated that as a mom. So I think in general, just splitting a stay like that was really, really helpful for us. Just kind of like being able to completely immerse yourself in the city of Hong Kong and then completely immerse ourselves into Disneyland Hong Kong. Okay, who should choose what? I actually made a PowerPoint slide so that you can kind of like see it visually organized. So here's what I would recommend. Staying on site works best if this is your first Disney trip or your first time in Hong Kong, when you travel with young kids, when you go during peak season like we did, and if you just want the lowest stress levels in general. And here's what I would recommend. If you want to stay in the city, then this would work best if Disney is just like a small part of your trip. If you value food and culture very much, then I think staying in the city is definitely the best way to go. And it could also be beneficial, especially if you have hotel status with a hotel chain, for example. If I were to plan Hong Kong Disneyland again with young kids during peak season, then I would absolutely split my stay and stay on site for the Hong Kong Disneyland portion and then stay in the city either before or after the Disneyland portion. And if you're interested in seeing the full breakdown of the hotels that we stayed at, I'll link those videos down below for your reference. And I really hope that these videos were helpful to you to make your decision. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. And thank you for following along our journey. We can't wait to share more on this travel guides and hotel reviews. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!